guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Ashers, and this is
Pat O.
Pat. Oh, how was your weekend?
My weekend was okay. We decorated the house for Halloween.
Oh,
I cannot wait to post pictures. I'm starting a inflatable front yard motif thing. And
yes.
last year we got the first one. This year we got another one, and every year I'm just gonna get one. And this year's was like a baby that I saw in clearance, and is the most
Ooh.
hideous fucking thing you've ever seen in your whole entire life. It's the worst like graphic design job. They took like a 4 foot baby in camouflage underwear, and then they like superimposed this zombie face on it, and it just looks absolutely terrible. So I'm gonna post a picture on our Twitter so everyone can see. But
I can't wait to see that. Yeah,
yeah, it's stopping. It's literally stopping traffic. Like people drive down our street and they see it and they fucking stop because they're like, "What the hell is that thing?"
that's
And
amazing.
yeah, it's like French or something. I got it on discount on Amazon, but yeah, none of the everyone talks about going to what is it, Spirit of Halloween? For no, I get the knockoff shit off the internet.
No, no, I understand.
I get the bootleg Halloween decorations. We don't
Yeah,
get that
dude,
Spirit of Halloween shit.
fucking Spirit's got the same shit every single year though. So it's like once you buy what you want to buy, like you're done. I mean, there's nothing new, and so I don't know, but why don't you have the 12-foot skeleton? Why don't you have that in your life?
Because that's like a lot. The Menards one, it's like $100.
So
No, I can't. I'm way too cheap to like. I get decorations. We get like the webs and like window stuff, and I like decorating for the holidays.
But
But
like 12-foot skeleton, man.
'cause
What if I
someone
buy
will
it for you? Will you put it
no,
up? Will
because
you
someone
name
will
it after
steal
me?
it. So
You're probably
no, do
right.
you still have that? Do you still have that fan that makes sculptures and shit?
Probably, yeah, I'm sure.
You know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't know who you're talking about.
Okay,
Is it
some
someone weird?
some admirer that you had that was like trying to send you a statue, and you're like, where should I have this thing shipped to?
Oh my gosh. You know what? Here's a fucking hilarious story about that. And I don't think anybody knows. Yes. Okay. So there's this weird guy who lives locally. And long story short, he makes props for like haunted houses and things like that. And they're fucking sweet. Like they're really cool. He's like, hey, I'm going to make you this like pumpkin. And it's nice. It's not just like a pumpkin. Like it's solid. Right. But then he's like, I'm going to send you this pumpkin guy. It's like fucking, this thing's like 8 foot tall. I don't have anywhere to put this fucking pumpkin guy, but I'm like, well, fuck, I'll take it. The thing sells for like $1,200. I was like, oh yeah, I'll take it, you know. But I was gonna show up with other men to help
Well,
get my
right. How would you even
made.
transport it? Yeah.
Well, sure. I mean, and also because I think the guy's genuinely fucking dangerous. Didn't matter how many times I've turned him down. It's not like I was flirting with him. It's not like I was trying to be an asshole and be like, oh, I'm just gonna flirt with him and get my free shit. No, I'm like, dude, I'm not interested in you romantically. He's like, "Oh, we can get married." I'm like, "Absolutely not." Um,
Just comes
but
and proposes.
if you fucking, I swear to God, I got all the screenshots. So a couple of months ago, and actually, you know what? I'm kind of glad this is happening because I told her I would shout her out. Okay, so a couple of months ago, I get a random message from this girl, and we're friends on Facebook, and we have a mutual friend and he's also kind of fucking weird. And she's like, "Hey, how about this guy? Does he talk to you a lot?" And I'm like, I guess he does, but I've never respond to him, whatever. And she's like, "Okay." She was like, "Well, what about this guy?" And it was the fucking haunted house prop guy. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I was like, "Yeah, he tried to make me a bunch of shit." I was like, "That guy's fucking nuts." And, I never went to go pick it up. And she was like, "Well, when did this happen?" She's like super curious. And so I was telling her all about it. She was like, "Well, I've been in a relationship with this guy for 2 years." I was like, "Oh, it's the guy's
What?
girlfriend." I swear to God, true fucking story. Hold on, it gets crazier. And I was like, "Wait a minute." I was like, because this has been going on for like, since the beginning of the pandemic. So she was like, "What, really? Send me the screenshot." I'm like, "Okay." So I fucking went back, sent her everything. Cause I don't have nothing to hide. Sent her everything. Yeah, him and her had been in she lives in Texas. Him and her had been in a long distance relationship for a couple of years. And she was obviously very heartbroken because he was, cheating, I guess, or whatever. Are you trying to cheat? Whatever. And so she was so happy that I let her know what was going on, which I didn't go out of my way to let her know. I didn't know who she was. That she also like makes Halloween props. And she sent me the skull. She made me a skull and sent it to me. Yeah, for real. Her name is Misty Wagner. I'm gonna link her. I asked her if she wanted me to send people her way because the skull is actually really nice. I then took the skull because it's so realistic and awesome looking. And I played a prank on my daughter and I told her that we got a trail right by our house. I told her I murdered somebody and boiled his head and now that's his skull. And she believed me.
Fucking what?
Anyway,
What?
it's crazy
Holy
story.
shit.
I'm surprised I hadn't talked about this yet. No, I just got this skull like 3 weeks ago. I keep forgetting. I'm like, I'm gonna post about it. I was like, I'm gonna plug you on the podcast. So her profile link is down below. You can go purchase these things from her, and I'll post a picture with my skull that she sent me because I was a good Samaritan and I told on somebody. So there's
I
that.
love how this is the shit that happens to you that almost doesn't make the show. Like this is the forgotten like B-roll. Like, oh yeah, then this also happened. I forgot to talk about that.
My fucking life. It's
I
just
know. Like, what the fuck are you doing over there? Like,
listen.
people are
I
just
don't.
like sending you skulls in the mail and shit, and you're like,
Yeah,
I'm gonna fuck with my kid.
I'm gonna
You
yeah.
know?
And I did. But she was really freaked out. I kind of felt bad. I mean, immediately I was like, okay, no, that's not true. Look, it's fake. Touch it.
Right.
She was very upset. But yeah, no, it's yeah, so I got the skull. I'm looking at it right now. I forgot all about it. But yeah, it's I get some fucking I got weird stories. I don't know, it's my life. But anyway, Misty Wagner, no, she's great. I got it again for telling on somebody. So, that's just my thing about the universe is like if you hit on me and you have a girlfriend, like if I would have known about her, I would have told on his ass a long time ago and gotten my skull. But like I will tell on you. So don't do it because then your lady sends me shit and that's great. So I benefit. But anyway, so there's that happened. That was the thing you now know about my life. But
Wow.
so anyway, I'm glad you got your Halloween decorating done.
Yeah, yeah. So I did that, and then played D&D yesterday for the first time in a couple months. We get together once a month. Last month we had off. This we got together yesterday. It was a lot of fun, and we're getting together again in 2 weeks. We're having our Halloween like get together, and we're all gonna dress up like our characters. So we're
Oh,
gonna be
that's cool.
LARPing, and that's gonna be a really fun adventure. And they actually get to fight a dragon. So spoiler alert, if you're
You get
part
to
of my D&D
actually
crew.
find a dragon.
Right, exactly. Venom Fang. I won't say anything else. Um, so that's it. And then next weekend is the 48-hour film project for me. So I'm kind of at the same time. Torch of the Flesh is done filming till November, and 48-hour film project next weekend. So getting everything together for that. So
Very cool.
next
Very
time we
cool.
talk, I will have another short film under my belt.
Well, good. You can tell us
Yeah,
about that when it's time. So
I
that'll be.
most certainly will.
We want to hear about. Do we get to see your films? Are we going to be able to watch this one?
So yeah, they make you. There is a theatrical premiere that they have at. It used to be the Music Box. I don't know where it is this year, but they do have. Towards the end of the month, they screen the completed shorts at a movie theater, and you're not allowed to put it online until after that. Which is why I completely forgot that last year's I never ended up putting online because I just waited for the thing and that was it. Or I don't think there was one. No, there wouldn't have been an in-person one last year. But we still had to hold off for like a month before we post them on social media.
Right.
So,
No.
it's just so they can sell tickets to whatever, do whatever they need to do uh, first. But yeah, it'll wind up on YouTube eventually.
Eventually, Pat's making another movie, and it'll be out eventually.
Right.
And I'll post the link down in the description, or maybe I won't. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how good it is. If it's shitty, if it's shitty, then no one needs to watch. It'll go in that pile. And if it's good, I'll never shut the fuck up about it. So.
Do you guys know Pat made a werewolf movie? Should I link that? I haven't even watched it yet.
Oh
So.
my god! It's actually one of the better ones too. I don't know. You can't. No, fucking.
I'm putting it. I'm gonna
Who
find it. And
cares?
I'm gonna send it. I'm gonna put it down in the
How
description.
How was your weekend,
Oh,
Ashley?
it was boring as fuck. Nothing exciting happened. I didn't get any
That's
skulls in
not
the
true.
mail.
That's not true.
What did I do this weekend?
I mean, chasing mylar balloons around.
Oh yeah, I seen it. Yeah, I seen a UFO, and It was crazy. I was sitting here and I was talking to somebody and I was talking about the situation happening well, situation not actively happening, but the lockdown that happened over at Wright Patterson Air Force Base.
Hmm.
And which of course I've spoken to some people about it, which I can share a little bit about, but I'll tell this story first. So, I was talking to somebody else about it, and then we just kind of started talking about other things. And while we're talking about other things, I'm looking out my window because I'm sitting in my living room. I got this giant window in my living room, and I see something silver in the sky, and I was like, "What is that?" And I'm like, hold on. Tell my person, I'm like, hold on. I get up, I run outside, and I'm like chasing this. At first, I couldn't find it, and I see this silver thing in the sky. It was so weird. I can't even tell you what shape it was. It was so weird because it was all silver, okay, and it looked like it was kind of phasing in and out of reality. And I know that sounds crazy, but I don't know if it was for sure. I couldn't tell because again, it was all silver. So it's like the sun would reflect it, and when the sun reflected it, it would pretty much disappear like against the sky. There was not a single cloud in the sky. It was just bright
Hmm.
blue, beautiful sky. And it would just kind of disappear and then it would kind of reappear again. And at first I'm like, I'm like, oh, it could be a drone? Is it a drone? It could be a kite. It could be a kite. It obviously wasn't a kite because of how quickly it was moving and how far and fast it was going. Couldn't have been a balloon. I thought about that. Maybe it's a balloon. No, it couldn't have been a balloon. It just didn't. It had like wings. It had wings. I think. It's hard to tell,
Oh my gosh. Have you
but
thought about calling it into MUFON or something, or
I'm not.
reporting
Oh,
it?
fuck, move on. No, who would I report it to? I'm the person. I reported it to me. What are you talking about? Report it to who?
I don't know. I don't know. I
I said,
guess
fuck
that's a
MUFON. They suck. I'll tell other people. I tell my researcher friends. If you guys want to know, fucking write it down. This is it. This is the event. This is what happened. It was probably about 3 o'clock,
yeah.
and Eastern Standard Time, and that's what happened. So I was trying to take a video of it, and here's the crazy thing about that is that it wouldn't show up in video. Like it wouldn't. You couldn't see it. I could see it with my eye looking at the sky, but I couldn't see it in the video. And I'm like, what the
Mm.
fuck, man? So I'm like, well, okay, I can't take video of it. So I just start taking pictures. And meanwhile, I mean, it's just going. It's going. That's how I knew it wasn't a balloon. That's how I knew it wasn't it wasn't anything else because it was not moving accidentally. It wasn't even windy outside, so it didn't even make any sense. But anyway, and so I start taking pictures of it, and even like in the pictures, and I know, you know what, I know you guys want to see the pictures. I'm gonna tell you right now, they look like shit. It looks like nothing. It looks like a blob, and that sucks. But what I can tell you is that I probably have maybe 15 to 20 pictures of this thing, and in every single picture, it's a different shaped blob. So I don't know. Take that with what you will. And then eventually it just disappeared. It just disappeared. I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna film. I'm gonna film like the track. Like I'm gonna film the route that it took, basically, and like kind of where I was and like getting to it or whatever. So that way you guys can kind of see. But then eventually it just kind of goes and it just fucking just disappeared. It just straight up disappeared. And I was like, okay, well there it was. So yeah, I mean, I saw it, but me seeing UFO, this isn't anything. I see them all the time. It's not, it's not anything new. Is it related at all to the fact that I was talking about, right, Pat? Probably not. No, that's probably just me being paranoid. But I don't know. It's
I could
weird.
see you. I mean, you've been filming a lot recently. I would see that kind of being something that could get the juices flowing. You know what I mean?
It could be. It could
The
be.
universe's juices flowing.
This universal juices. Yeah, I mean, it's anything's possible. Um, I have been doing a lot of filming and stuff lately, and a lot of work on just everything, kind of in general. But it's just one of those things. I mean, it happens. It's just that now I've been a little more. I've been a little bit more. I've been a little bit better about having my phone present during these moments and being a little bit more aware. That's what I say. I joke all the time with the crew. My crew that I'm a bad film, I'm a bad director because I never fucking film anything. So when anything does happen, you know, they're always yelling at me. They're like, "You should have been recording this right here, right now." And I'm like, "Fuck, man, I know." So I miss everything, But like I had my phone, I was on my phone, and I just jumped right up. And what's crazy is like from my window, even like I've got like a bunch of tree coverage. Like I live in an apartment, but I live right on a trail. Okay, and so there's lots of trees and things like that. So there's all this tree cover. So I only really get like a little sliver of the sky. And so the fact that I'm sitting here at the exact time that I was, and I look out my window at the exact time that I did, and I saw this thing. That's wild. It's absolutely wild. So
Right.
I don't know, but that was my super excited. That's what I did this weekend. Other than that, I didn't really do anything. It wasn't, I had 2 weekends in a row of straight exciting excitement, and that was, that was that. So, I had a pretty boring weekend otherwise. Oh, that's right, but I did tease. I said I was going to mention this right Pat thing. So I've had a couple of different reports. I can't say who, obviously, but I got a couple of people that I talked to that are involved with the base, right? And I've kind of become that person locally, that has been talking to these people, and so I I have people that were at the base. Now the base went on lockdown. Just a refresher, went on lockdown on the 9th of September at around 9:30 p.m. Okay. It was on lockdown for 5 hours. They said that there was a reported shooter in the National Air and Space Intelligence Center. Air and Space Intelligence Center, and that's why they had gone on lockdown. Well, it was locked down for 5 hours. They swept the building twice. They came out. They said, "Oh, false alarm. It was nothing." Okay, so well, all right then. Except I've been told that it was not nothing. As a matter of fact, I've had people tell me that work and live on the base that they knew that this was going to happen. Like they were some of them were made aware that this was going to happen. This was planned. This was a planned false alarm. And I have one person who could see the NASIC building from where they were locked down at. And again, they knew that this was happening. They didn't know what was happening, but they knew that this was happening. And what they reported seeing coming out of that building were military personnel walking in a type of formation that seemed like they were trying to conceal something. So, like, they were moving things out of the NASIC building and trying to hide what they were moving. Now, here's the thing about it. The base goes on these lockdowns pretty frequently, right? And they always end up being false alarms. It's never anything, and it's always kind of ridiculous. So, when this happens, you're not getting anywhere near the base. Like you're not allowed. Now, the media, the news reporters, and then looky loos as well, they'll all gather around where the museum is at, okay, which is a public entrance. Now, the National Air Force Museum is not really on the base. Like it's on the base, but it's not really on the base because they have to keep that's open to the public. They have to keep the public separate from the actual base. The base itself, and I've said it before, it's so big. The base is its own city. Like it's its own little city. And so they gather all the media people at the front gates of the Air Force Museum. Can't go in, but you can stand around, and everybody's standing around there. So they know that everybody and their mother is at that fucking entrance. Okay. So that'd be a great time to move shit around. You got everybody else that's around your area. Nobody can get in, nobody can fly over to get footage of what you're moving or what you're doing. Nobody's allowed to move from their spaces that they're locked down into. Let's start moving shit. So I theorize that there's a pretty good possibility that when they go on lockdown like that and they're not able to use the underground tunnels, because we've talked about the underground tunnels before. There's underground tunnels underneath the Wright Patterson Air Force Base, which they haven't confirmed, but they've never denied either, and there's proof that they're there anyway. Go listen to the Right Pat episode. But if you can't move things throughout the tunnels, then the best your best bet of moving them is going to be at 9:30 o'clock at night during a lockdown. So I don't know. But let's think about it for a second. It doesn't even make much sense. It doesn't make much sense. The the lockdown itself doesn't make much sense. They said one person reported hearing gunshots inside of the NASIC building. There's not just one person at that building. There's not just 5 people at that building or within that area. There's a couple. And at any given time, the NASIC building, what they do there is they come up with strategies and assessments on aerospace technologies, aerospace capabilities, and aerospace vulnerabilities. Okay. And when you say aerospace, it's not just immediate to our atmosphere, it's also actual space, right? Actual, space shit. So, and this is the National Defense Department for this, for the entire United States military. First of all, you are not getting through that gate without a very specific clearance, okay? And let's not act like the government doesn't fucking vet their people, okay? So you're not getting through the gate. You're especially not getting through the fucking door without super specialized clearance, okay? So to say that one person out of all these people heard a gunshot and that was enough to just lock the whole fucking base down, it just doesn't make any sense.
Well,
It
no.
really
So
doesn't.
you've already established that the lockdown itself was pre-planned, and
Pre-planned.
that it was a way to. So if the narrative that we're going to believe is that, and I'm not disagreeing with you at all, I'm just saying like this is what we think happened.
Right.
We think that the lockdown was pre-planned and was even scheduled to remove something from the base or move something around
Move
within the
something.
base
Right.
and limit bystander exposure. So okay, and I makes sense. I buy that. Um,
Sure,
so
could be
it's
anything. Right.
yeah. So the gunshot, the whole I think I heard this or this is what the report was. All that's bullshit. So my question though would be, what would they be transporting?
Right.
Like,
Well,
is it big enough to be like a piece of craft, or are they suggesting that it's a extraterrestrial, or is it like some kind of computer module? Like when you said they were walking in formation to conceal
mhm.
something, people walking into formation to conceal something. Think about the size of whatever they would be able to conceal. Maybe the size of a casket, or you know what I mean, or like
Right.
what?
Well, right. Exactly. And so from my understanding, they said they didn't count them because they they were nervous, right? So the one person that I had that reported physically seeing this, they said they didn't count it. They were nervous, but there was at least 10 people. So
Okay,
not a huge group, right? But big enough, I guess, to
yeah,
conceal,
yeah. I mean, it's a
something.
sizable security force, you know.
I'm still waiting to make contact with one particular individual, and and that's why I really wasn't going to say much about what was going on because I'm not a conspirator. I'm not that person. Like I like facts and I like logic and I like things that make sense. And the thing is that anybody could talk to me and say, "Hey, I know this thing," and I'm going to take your story in, but it doesn't mean your story's real. Um, so I could easily fall victim a lot of times to people that make shit up. I'm human, but at the same time, you know, I have that one. I have one person that says they saw something, or at least saw them concealing something. But I have multiple people that say that this was planned. So, and the one person that I'm waiting to talk to, we kind of touch base a little bit on them possibly moving shit during these lockdowns. So it's not like it's an unfamiliar thing that we haven't talked about before. But you're right. What if they were moving shit? What were they moving? What? Why? You know?
It's gonna yeah, it's something of a very specific size. It's not gonna be super huge. It could be humanoid, or it could be a piece of but like think about it. It was a piece of technology they don't want anyone to see or walk past, but they have to move it. It just seems like such an analog solution to a problem. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I
Like,
agree.
I but I guess that's sometimes you got to deal with that. Sometimes you got to, um there was an episode of the X-Files where they were transporting alien bodies and like, you know, uh freezer trucks like on the expressway, and one of them gets stolen or something. I don't know. I forget what the plot line of
Hilarious.
that episode was, but it was the idea that they would transport something as top secret, and like Earth changing as like a potential alien corpse, and they were to do it like in a converted like Miller Light truck. It was like kind of like head scratching. But when you think about it, what would you use? So how would you transport it through a major city and not distract attention? If you were to
Yeah,
drive it
you'd just be
from
totally inconspicuous. I mean, you'd just be
yeah,
one. Well, and that's what Tanya said when we talked with Tanya about Endred, is
oh yeah,
the
that was
thing.
this weekend too, wasn't it?
No, that was the weekend before. That was
Oh,
last
all
weekend.
right, never mind. Okay,
But she said that the thing about these guys are that they just live amongst us. They don't have to do anything special. They look like us. They just, well, they live amongst us and nobody ever really noticed. She said, because I had asked about the alleged report that somebody had seen somebody pull up in a black car wearing a black suit. Was that Indrid? And she said no, but again, he didn't really have to hide because they were being so bombarded with reporters and random people showing up all hours of the night that Indrid could just walk up and everybody just thought it was somebody just being a dick. And
right.
so, that makes sense. I mean, you just kind of blend into the background of your surroundings. I suppose when it comes to moving stuff, though, I agree. That does seem like a very analog way to do it. But again, if you want people to stay in place or, they're going to get shot if they don't, then the best way to do that is to, do a fake lockdown. And, that's your excuse for shooting anybody that sees something they're not supposed to or whatever.
Well, you ever sit in traffic and as a train's going by and wonder what the fuck are on all those cars?
Yeah,
Those
absolutely.
box cars. You don't. Everyone thinks that you need some kind of secret underground railroad to move shit. You could do it above ground. No one knows what the fuck's on the trains that go by.
Yeah, they just
Why
did
would
it.
you need to bear? Why would you need to cease? Needlessly complicate things by putting the train underground. Just use the one that's above ground. No one knows what the fuck is on that either. Like,
Well, that's the thing about these underground fucking right pat systems is that, okay, the biggest indicator how we know they're there is, again, not because they've come out and said it. They never denied it, but they haven't come out and said it either. But the reason why we know is because Wright State University, which
right,
is now a college, used to be was part of the base, and eventually they sold it off, and it's now it's now its own college, and it has underground tunnels. So you
sure.
know that predate the college, so it's like, well, why wouldn't the rest of the base then, you know and so we know that, we know that that's a thing, and they don't really have to say that it is, but they don't have to say that it's not either, because honestly nobody's really questioning them. Nobody's really bringing it up. But speaking of I have another working theory, and it's that these military bases are typically housed either in extremely desolate places where nobody would fucking live anyway, or in the case of like Wright Pat, it's housed right between Dayton, Ohio and Fairborn, Ohio. Okay. Both pretty poverty stricken towns. Like, these aren't pretty places. Like, they're not thriving at all, which is fucking weird because do you know how many people work at the base? You have any idea how many people work there?
No, a lot.
A lot.
But
A
don't they
lot.
live there too?
Some people do. I'll tell you, not everybody. No, not everybody lives there. Only certain people that are stationed there, their families live there. That's it.
Right,
So if you're stationed at the base, then your family can live on the base. But a lot of times they choose not to. I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. There is housing there. 39,000 people work at Wright Patterson Air Force Base. 39,000 of them. Right. That's a population of, again, its own town. All right. 19,000 of those people are civilian workers. All right. So they those civilian workers are people that don't live at the base, really. They have no military clearance. They just come in off the
hmm
street. It's an entry level job.
hmm
Or, in the case where my mom was offered the job in the lab, I mean, it's just, you're not military personnel working there, right?
No, I'm on a list with that. With the Space Force, actually.
Are you?
Well, I'm trying to, yeah, to be a civilian contractor for what I do. I do facilities stuff, and
Yeah.
it's one of the off. They got office buildings. They got right now. It's all still under the banner of the Air Force, so they're using a lot of Air Force people. but
Yeah,
they have opened it up to civilian. Um, you can bid.
applicants. Yeah.
Yes, you can bid for stuff too.
Yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Well, right. So I mean, civilian work, it's a, it's a thing, and so anyway, it employs all these fucking people. Okay, so you would think, right? You would think that like Dayton, Ohio, being right there, that Dayton with such a big industry right there in their town, the town itself would be flourishing, right? It'd be thriving, but it's not, and it's so weird. So I have a theory that if you go and apply for a job there and you put down Dayton or Fairborn or Springfield even, which I guess only local people know what any of this shit means. But if you put any of that shit down on your application, you're not going to get the job. And I think that there's a reason for that. I think that they want to keep that immediate area poor. Okay. Why do they want to keep it poor? Well, let me tell you why. Because I have so many people. I was just tagged in a fucking UFO picture that was taken on the 21st of September, right near Wright Patterson Air Force Base. Okay. And that's not unusual. It happens a lot. A lot of weird shit happens in that area constantly. And people are always taking pictures and always taking video. But not everybody, because poor people are too fucking busy trying to figure out how they are going to keep their lights on that they don't have fucking time to worry about the lights in the sky. You know what I mean? They're too busy trying to work out the basics of living that they don't have time to question what the fuck is going on around them. Their minds are so riddled with all the stress of everyday life. They can't even worry about it. And I think that that's absolutely on purpose. I think it's intentional.
Man, or or they're too busy to smoke crack. I don't know. You know, fucking seeing shit. They're unreliable narrators. Yeah, I think there's some. Well, there's a lot to unpack there. I do have a similar situation by me though. The National Guard has a facility a couple miles away from my house, and it is in the middle of the hood. And
Right.
I don't know if it was cheap land out there or what, but that's definitely where the fucking armory is at.
And it's
Is
weird.
in the middle of
It's always
literally in the
like
middle of a
that.
war zone.
I
But
mean,
yeah,
I'm going to start really looking into the
you
demographics of
should.
like these areas
You
because,
really should. Yeah,
you know,
because I
I've
think
I've paralleled that and it kind of makes sense. Now, meanwhile, you got people that might work on the base, but like those people, they know the people that end up working on the base as civilian workers, you find out where they live. They live in nicer places. They live in Kettering. They live in Centerville. They live in Beaver Creek. And those people are just kind of, middle class okay. I mean, they're decently well off, but they're well off enough to have a taste of what it's like to live comfortably that they would do absolutely nothing to jeopardize that, meaning keeping secrets if it meant keeping their job. I'm just saying, I think there's something to I really think there's something to this. So I've been playing with it. I'm going to start looking into other bases and, well, like you said, National Guards, things like that, and see where they're located because
well,
why aren't they
especially
hiring people in their local area?
especially when you think that or people that do get hired and move out of that area, they move to a nicer, they move to the suburbs. But if you think about like what a military base would mean in like overseas, I think that it would kind of give it, there would be a cottage industry that would pop up around it, like a college town or something, and that would actually boost the economy of the area around it if there was a military base in the middle of, some foreign country, because that's where the soldiers would go when they get off, right?
Right.
Um, but the fact that there might be an opposite effect going on here in the states, I think that that's something worth exploring. And I think it honestly should be kind of easy to as well. You just look at the bigger
Yeah.
bases, and then you look at
Start breaking it down smaller into
yeah,
smaller
yeah,
operations. Yeah, I think so. So I think that's something I want to start looking into. But I don't know. Maybe it'll never go anywhere. Somebody else can have it. $1 million idea. You say it all the time.
right.
you know, but it's just something that I kind of observed. Anyway, um, right, Pat. That's what's going on there. So this is already
Did
turning.
you have any other news for us this week?
I do actually, because we skipped the news last week, so I had a little bit of news, couple of things, actually. So, in light of spooky season here, um, the Conjuring house, that the movie's based off of, the actual house is for sale. You can buy it for $1.2 million. It's located in Harrisville, Rhode Island. So if you ever dreamed of living in Rhode Island and you also dreamed of living in a pretty much possessed home, you can do that. You can be Ed and Lorraine Warren. You can pretend that you are, Ed and Lorraine every night. And if that's your kink, now's the time. You got to jump on it. I don't know. Would you ever buy a house that is allegedly super haunted like this?
No.
No? Just
No.
just because you don't believe in it, or because you believe in it enough to where you don't want to be haunted, or
Yeah, I mean, I think when I come home from work, I usually like to not have to deal with shit. And
yeah,
the fact that I would come home and then come home to a place where
you have to deal with shit.
there's, yeah, I fucking, that doesn't sound like a good time. No, thank
Yeah,
you.
I guess you're right. I mean, I wouldn't do it mostly because, ooh, I'm not gonna say it. Should I say it? Maybe
I know
what's
you don't
wrong?
like them, right? They're like your Travis Waltons.
Yeah, don't like
Yeah,
them. They're not trustworthy good people. Sorry, they're fake. Um, the Warrens are frauds. Maybe we'll do maybe one of our Halloween episodes would be about the Warrens. That might be good stuff. People might like that,
sure. I saw the first movie. I think or the first or the second one.
and it sucked.
Yeah, I'm not. I know that there's like spin-offs and there's all this other stuff,
Yeah.
and I don't really care.
No, it's terrible. Just yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, I guess if you like ghost movies, sure. I'm not a big fan of like parent like hauntings, and
probably my least favorite genre of scary movie is the ghost story. I like a good monster.
me
I
too.
like
Same.
something with rules and an origin,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me
and
too.
a weakness that you can exploit in the last 15 minutes to kill it. I don't like
I mean,
ghosts are
ghost
too.
movies are just jump scare movies. Like that's basically all it is. Like I don't
Ah,
know.
they're lame period pieces too. I always hate that shit when
Yeah,
they all take place in the 70s or 80s or something.
they're like, ooh, the door opened by itself. How scary! And it's like, okay, so, have you not heard of Wind? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. They're not scary to me. And, as somebody that's been to haunted locations and, has possibly encountered a couple of ghosts, I'm not scared of them. Not scared of them. So
Okay.
I am not interested. But if anybody else out there is interested in buying this house for $1.2 million, hey, be my guest. Be my guest. And I will even come personally investigate it for you. Because if you got $1.2 million, then surely you got at
Yeah,
least
she
20
wants to party
grand.
with you. I'll come by
Yeah,
for the weekend.
exactly.
You can afford me.
you know, we could figure something out.
I'll
Um,
make a special appearance
That's right.
at
Me
your
and Pat will
party.
show up. We will make your
Yeah.
Wednesday very weird. Um,
Shit, I'll come by on a Tuesday for the right amount of money.
but exactly. All right. Well, there's that. What else is there? Oh, this is really fun. This is a fun one. So a company by the name of Colossal plans to resurrect the woolly mammoth within the next 6 years.
Oh, I saw that. That's kind
They-
of cool.
That's, I think, I don't know. People are like, yeah, but Jurassic Park. Yeah, but like, we're not Jurassic Park. Um, I don't know. I am torn because they're extinct, but at the same time, I want to see them.
Yeah, I mean, granted, it opens up bigger, more like philosophical questions. Like, and if you're going to do this, and this is what you're doing in front of
Right.
all of us, what are you doing behind our backs, or what's going
Yeah.
to happen next, or blah 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 blah. This is just the tip of the iceberg. All that stuff I completely identify with and I agree with.
Sure.
Also, like, what if the first couple don't work and you create these abominations that are destroyed and you're creating tortured life just to kill it? Or I don't. Yes, there's a lot of moral shit to have to sort through here.
Yeah.
All of that aside, woolly mammoths are cool, and if I could see one in a zoo, I would go to that zoo. So,
Yeah, I would pay whatever it took to go to that fucking zoo. I mean, I would make it happen.
right.
And I agree with that. Like, I want to see one. Now, granted, these are like they wouldn't be exact replicas because they would have to replicate. They're using basically the premise of Jurassic Park. They're using other DNA from known species mixed with what they do have and kind of creating something new.
Hmm.
I think they explained that in Jurassic World, didn't they? They're like, oh, they don't have fucking feathers because we fucking didn't. We used toads
Right.
and or
Yeah.
whatever. They kind of played it off. But that's kind of what the premise would be, so they wouldn't be exact. But I want to see it happen. I'm here for it. I want to touch a woolly mammoth, and I think that they're probably really neat. So totally down for that. So there's that, and real world news. Um, the next thing I have here is kind of a two-parter, right? So we've been talking a lot about Nessie lately. There's been a lot of sightings happening. As a matter of fact, Nessie sightings just broke last year's record, which means that it has now broken modern day records for the most sightings in a single year. We just hit 14. Okay, there was another sighting caught on the webcam, and that the registry, which I've shared before, but I'll share the website again with the registry and the webcam. You can watch Loch Ness all day long. That they verified, and so now we've hit 14 sightings compared to last year's record-breaking 13 sightings.
Did you? Yeah, but did you see that the latest one
So
was
that's what we're going to talk about. The drone
uh
footage.
yeah.
Is that what we're talking about? The guy caught this is a guy flying his drone. He caught didn't know it at the time, but allegedly caught Nessie in the footage. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah,
So
and Sam from the clubhouse says that it's a CGI fake.
exactly. So
Yeah.
Sam, our buddy, Mr. Sam Sheeran, who is great fucking guy. Go follow him. He's an amazing artist. He makes artwork for everything.
He's British, but he lives in LA. It's very curious.
Yeah, and he has a pet. He has a pet possum. Opossum. Which one is the American version? Is it possum or opossum? God damn it! I should know this. I suck.
I don't know.
Whatever that other trash panda is, he has one of those, and I'm so jealous. And anyway, no, Mr. Sam Sheeran, he's great. I'll link him down below. He's got all kinds of art. He's kind of broken the mold on this drone footage that has been caught of an alleged Nessie, and he compared it. It's actually a toy. It's not a CGI. It's a toy. It's a little like model of a plesiosaur that's just been kind of photoshopped into this footage, and I gotta agree with him. I don't know. I mean, did you see it, Pat? Did you see what exactly the comparison was?
No, I read the article on actually Tobias singular14.com ran Sam's article, so I just read it over there. I was surprised that they all know each other, but
It's
I
a
was like,
small
wow,
world. And
small world, right?
it's
Holy
a
shit,
weird
you guys
world.
know each other? Uh,
We're friends.
yes, that's crazy. But yeah, no, I didn't watch the video. I just read his story about it.
That's okay. The video's not great. It's just, I mean, what Sam posted was just still shots from the drone footage, and then plus kind of phasing into the dinosaur toy, and vice versa or whatever. But it's pretty obvious to me that that's what it is. So I'm gonna call that one debunked. So that did not get actually the guy was complaining because he thought his sighting should be part of the registry, and they won't put him on the registry. So just saying. So the registry is legit. Like they're legitimately trying to put actual things that they think are real sightings of Nessie. So again, I will link that website. It's a great resource to have for a lot of people. You could find that down below. But that was my two-parter. That was my second part to that. But yeah, Nessie's hitting she's getting up there. I mean, what do you think's going on? So many people think that we thought she was dead like 10 years ago, and now all this activity.
Yeah, I don't remember the whole dead thing.
Well, maybe you don't. I don't know. I remember that.
Those are
Maybe.
during the lost years. Where was I? Oh yeah, raising children. Um, there was a falling around with your fucking imaginary animal. But yeah, that sounded way more harsh than I meant it to be. I apologize, everybody out there, all you Nessie heads.
Yeah, we'll be knocking the nests,
We
okay?
shit on our listeners. Oh my god,
Right.
we didn't alienate the audience, man. No, I mean, like I said, it's very unsexy cryptid. It doesn't really kill anybody. It's not dangerous. It's not, it's possibly an old dinosaur that's trapped in a lock or something. But yeah, so it never was anything that I followed with any great interest. But at the same time, it's kind of nice that it's cool because it's particular to that one region, and it's been consistent. I mean, with the exception of the 10-year hiatus that it took, I guess. Um, it's a long time for one specific cryptid to be spotted in one specific location.
Yeah.
You don't really get that too much with the other ones. They're kind of spread out all over the place. Even Mothman moved from West Virginia to Chicago. You know, um, So I don't know. I think it's an interesting case, and it's one of our go-to whenever we talk about doing a show where we're kicking around show ideas. I always bring up Loch Ness Monster. I'm like, because it'll give me an excuse to read about it for a week.
We'll
You know what I
talk
mean?
about it. Yeah, we'll definitely
Yeah,
talk about it one of
and
these
I
days.
would definitely be interested in doing that because I know it's not the sexiest story in the world, but it's got the street cred. It's an OG. So
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
I look
You
forward to
know,
doing a deeper dive one day.
that'll be great. And hopefully one day we'll, maybe next year she'll just like come out and be like, "Hey guys, I'm here." She'll be like, I exist. I don't know. Maybe she's working her way up to it. She's doing a little soft touch. She's like, do they like me? Do they not? So I think if we continue
She'll
to love her,
she'll disclose that she's been in a relationship with Elvira all this time,
and we'd all be like, well, fuck, that's a lucky slake monster.
right?
I'm like, yeah, slake monster. God damn it. That's what she's been doing all these years. That
That's where she
Elvira.
was for 10 years. Lost them titties.
I forgot that happened. Should we talk about that real quick?
What else is there? What is there to say? I don't know. So,
Yeah.
I was
What?
always more of a Rhonda Shears person. Do you ever? You probably don't remember USA Up All Night because it didn't have a huge like.
Nope, I don't.
Yeah, but that Elvira I never watched. I was all Rhonda Shears. But go on.
See. And I mean, I love me some Elvira, which is good for me. Good news for me,
Right.
because she's gay. So, she's probably not. I think she's not gay, right? She's just been with a woman.
Queer. I think yeah, that was just how they left it.
It's like, oh, she's with a woman. That means she's gay. Not necessarily. I mean, I think that's up to her to decide. But she doesn't have to be. You don't have to be gay to be with the same gender. Like, whatever. Anyway, that's the big news. Elvira's gay. She's been with a woman for a long time now. They've been together for like 20 years almost.
Right.
So I think that's the shocker right there is the fact that they've been together for so fucking long and nobody knew. I mean,
Well, she's not. I don't think there's people waiting outside her house to take a picture when she throws out her garbage and shit. She's not like Ben
yeah,
Affleck.
that's true.
She's got her audience that like obviously a rabid fan base, but I'm sure she's at that sweet spot, right? Where like, if she can walk into the right place and get free tacos, but at the same time people mostly leave her the fuck alone, you know?
Why is it gotta be tacos?
I mean,
It's not hot dogs, it's tacos.
quesadillas on the house.
Quesadillas. All around in quesadillas. Um anyway, I'm getting fucking loopy. I'm just I don't know. Okay, well, there's that. That's the news. That's the news that I had for the week. And so let's get into the episode, huh? I think people are here to
Sure.
talk about that. So as you guys know, last week, was that last week or the week before? Maybe it was the week before.
I think it was last week.
I don't remember anymore. Every day is the same. Time doesn't exist. It's a social construct. Anyway, um so we just surpassed I had to gather my thoughts. We just surpassed the anniversary of the Betty and Barney Hill case. Betty and Barney? Barney and Betty? Which one do you like better, Pat?
I think you say Betty and Barney.
Betty and Barney. I like Betty and Barney. So, as we know, this was kind of one of those cornerstone abduction cases for things like this. There was only like really one other. Okay, there were other abduction stories predating the Hill case, but there was only one other really big one, and we're definitely going to talk about that one day because it involves a guy having sex with an alien, but not today. So today we're going to talk about the Hill case. So Betty and Barney Hill went out on vacation and they were driving back home back in September of 1961. And during their drive back home, they see this strange light in the sky. And a lot of people, including Betty, thought that it was Jupiter, that it was but it was like moving. And so that was odd. And some hilarity ensues, and eventually their car gets stopped by a big pancake shaped craft, and some things come out of it and is like, hey, you're coming with us. And they went with them. But okay, so here's the thing. Betty and Barney they remember seeing this craft, okay? They remember being stopped by the craft, and Barney remembers looking through his binoculars and seeing through the windows of the craft these humanoid beings
Mm-hmm.
He remembers running back to the car because he had this overwhelming sensation that they were going to capture them. That's what he said. They're going to
Right.
capture us.
Right.
So he runs back to the car. They're both in the car. They remember weird beeping and buzzing noises and kind of weird vibrational feelings. And then they remember another set of beeping vibrational noises, and they were driving in the car. And time had passed, and that's all they knew. So then Betty and Barney go home, and things were just very off. They didn't know what happened. They had kind of talked about what maybe had happened. They had, I think it was 4 hours of lost time.
Mm-hmm.
And, they wouldn't bring their suitcases and stuff in the house. They didn't, well, Betty didn't want to. She wanted to leave it outside. Betty, her dress was all fucked up and she took it off, and
Right.
there was a strange powder, like a pink powder, over
Mm-hmm.
the dress, but she took it outside. She kind of, shook it around, and she was going to throw it away, and she did, but then she grabbed it out of the trash can, decided not to. Um, Barney, for some reason, felt the need to go look at his penis. I understand. When I have a really hard night, I really just want to go home and look at my penis. So
I
I
can't
went
help but
ahead
look
and
at it. Whenever I tilt my head in a certain direction, it's usually in my field of vision.
it's just there.
Just fucking there, right? You
you
know?
know, and Barney too, I'm sure. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
comforting. You just want to pull your dick out and just make sure it's okay. I get it. And so they did that for a little while, and they didn't really know what the fuck happened. Um, there were these weird circles that were etched into their car, circular type things that were etched in the car that weren't there before. Allegedly, Barney was like kind of playing with them with a compass, and noticed weird things happening with the compass when they were getting closer to the circles or away, and
Mm-hmm.
it was just very odd. What am I missing? Did I cover basically?
I think chronologically you're moving in the right direction.
Oh, good, wonderful. So things were weird. Well, Betty decided to go ahead and contact the local, and actually the Air Force Base right there. And she wanted to report what had happened, in that time period to that, or, what had happened just in general. They were like, yeah, you know what, lady, I think you just seen Jupiter. It's fine. And they didn't really take her very seriously, um, until about 10 days in after this situation had happened. Betty started having very vivid, very, very real dreams about what may have occurred during their time. And had it not been for these dreams, I think that they kind of just would have moseyed along in life thinking that nothing had happened, or just kind of forgetting that it did. But the dreams that she had were allegedly what might have happened during that time on the ship. And she says that, they were separated immediately. She was taken up, on the ship. They took her into a room. They did a weird examination. She said this thing talked to her. This guy, this humanoid guy, talked to her, and told her. He didn't really tell her much, but she's being examined. He had like some weird superpower where he could like take pain away from her, because he like stuck her with a needle, and she was in a lot of pain, and he just kind of waved his hand over the spot. She wasn't in pain anymore. She was kind of asking questions like, "Who are you? What are you doing?" And he pulled down a map. He said, "This is where we're from." And she's like, "Okay." He gave her a book. He said, "You can have this book. It's got all these weird alien symbols and shit in it." She's like, "Cool." So they're getting ready to get off the ship, and a fight had broke out between these alien guys.
I love this part of the story.
Do you?
Just because it either makes it completely true or it's the fucking straw that breaks the camel's back, and you're like, this is bullshit. But it's one of those like, if Quentin Tarantino wrote this movie, like it would be one of those very real moments. You know what I mean? Like injecting
Yeah.
reality, where the aliens argue about whether or not she should be allowed to keep the book. So
They
like,
were. Yeah.
Alien A gives Betty Hill the book. They're leaving. Alien B goes, "What's she doing with that book?" And Alien A goes, "Oh, no, it's fine. I let her have it." And Alien B goes, "You can't let her take the fucking book." And they get an argument about it, which
And
is
it's
a
like,
yeah,
It's
it's
like
a very human thing to have
it
happen,
is.
like,
Yeah. No, it
it
is.
it
Absolutely it is.
something that would happen between, like, "What are you doing? Like, you can't do that." Like, "Oh, alright, well, I thought it'd be fine." "No, no, 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 take the book back. We're not giving them books. We keep the books, they
Yeah.
gotta go back how they are."
They
"Okay."
argued about the books. They were like, you can't," and he's like, "Well, I just thought I was just trying to be nice. She's not gonna remember it anyway. Fuck, you know."
Right,
And
you
so,
know?
but they did. They took the book back. She wasn't allowed to take it. Um, and and then that was it. Then they were back in the car again. You know, that was pretty much the gist. I mean, there's more meat and potatoes in there, I suppose, but you know, Betty, these she had these memories kind of returned back in the form of a dream rather than you know anything else. And Barney meanwhile didn't remember a goddamn thing. And so they started going and they were trying to like figure out medically if there was anything going on with them. um and at that point in time, that's when they started with, well, actually the first instance of regression therapy and hypnosis and abductees. And so they had put Barney under, and Barney's version of events was obviously a little bit different. Um, the aliens came and, came up to the car. Well, they tried to get away. He tried to drive away in the car, and then the car died. It's like stalled out or whatever. And they came down and
Mhm.
they're like, you're coming with us. And they got grabbed up by these guys. He went in. He was examined. It seems in a pretty similar fashion that Betty was examined in, just very mostly like an actual visual examination, but he was also probed. So there's that. Um God, what else happened? He was very freaked
Anally?
out. He was anally probed, yeah. They stuck a tube in his butthole for briefly. So, what do you think probed means? What?
So the anal probe thing is something that I never thought was so obviously it's a very big joke about the abduction
Aliens.
phenomenon, right?
Right.
And I always wondered where it came from because I don't none of the stories that I was familiar with, and I knew the Betty and Barney Hill story, but I didn't know that he had claimed to be anally probed.
Yeah, yeah. He was briefly anally probed by a plastic tube. And what was weird about the examination for me between the both of them is that they both reported that they scraped skin samples off of them.
Right.
And
I
so
mean,
that was
Whitley Strieber said that he had sperm collected, but he never said anything about an anal probe, as far as I know. But I haven't read I don't
so
know
yeah.
everything about everything.
Barney Hill said that too. He said they placed a plastic cup like up against his genitals. He didn't orgasm, but he's positive that they took sperm. Doesn't know how, and so that happened. And God, what else happened? I don't remember because shit gets weird with Betty's star map. But basically he was very scared. Now they both reported that the things talked to them in English. They could understand what they said. They also both reported that they couldn't see their mouths moving when they talked, that this was all happening telepathically. They didn't know what the word for telepathic communication was, so they called it something else. I don't remember. But, they talked to them through their heads, but they could understand what they were saying. However, I think Barney was reporting that he could hear Betty talking to one of these things, and they weren't speaking in English, but he could understand what they were saying. So
Mhm.
that was interesting. Um, so Barney was saying all this stuff, and it was kind of coming out. And then Betty, I believe, underwent hypnosis as well, but she just kind of recanted exactly what she had already said. But she was able to remember more about the star map to the point to where she could draw it out, and she did. And so that's now a thing that's out there. You can listen to their sessions and things like that. They are out there in the public. If you want to hear them from their own mouths. Yeah, Barney was especially freaked out. He really, really, really did not like their eyes. Like it really fucked with him for
Mhm.
whatever reason. He said it's a couple of times. He said that what he didn't like it because he felt like their eyes were pushing into his eyes, whatever that means. He just didn't like it, and
Sure.
it was very scary.
One of the things that I thought was interesting is the first when he first describes them in his regression session, when he's got the binoculars and he's looking up at them from the ground, right? And he's looking at them through the windows of the craft. The very first word he uses to describe them is Nazis.
Oh, did he really?
Yes. Yes,
I
it's
think he did it.
his first description of them is they look like Nazis.
He thought
And
that
then
they
he
were.
goes on and he goes, because he kind of wrestles with their inhuman aspects. And
Yeah.
then, he realizes that they're not human. They don't look right. And then it's like, oh my God, they're fucking aliens. But like his knee jerk reaction, the very first way he describes them as Nazis, which I
That
thought was
must be.
very, very interesting. Um,
Well, and I mean, for the time period, it would make sense, considering this was, I mean, this wasn't right during, the World War II,
oh, like
obviously,
20 years
1960.
after. I mean, it was, or 15
Right.
at
And like,
least.
the Nazis were rumored to have had some very, well advanced technological things. And, so,
Right, but if these are
it,
aliens, they're not Nazis. I
well,
understand
I
what you're
mean,
saying about the Nazi bell program or the anti gravity bells that they were trying to develop.
yeah,
But okay, then are these Nazis or are these aliens? Because if this was
well,
Nazis, some rogue squadron of Nazis experimenting with anti gravity craft, that's one explanation. But I mean, unless it was aliens and Nazis working side by side, I don't. I mean, and I'm not saying that's not the case either. His Nazi description could be a red herring. It could be a misnomer. It could be, who knows, maybe they were wearing uniforms that he mistaken for Nazi uniforms. Maybe it was the fucking armbands. Maybe there was some weird insignia in the background that he mistook for a swastika. Maybe they were masking. Maybe they were trying to use a cover memory or a screen image or something. And they just happened to pick Nazis for whatever fucking reason.
it was
But
probably their little mustaches that they had.
right. Or maybe it was
Just
that.
saying.
Maybe, or maybe there was Nordics with them and there was big blonde guys in the background. But I'm just saying, I just thought that was interesting, was that was his very, because that opens up, because of, we always talk about how this case is kind of like the cornerstone of
Right,
the modern abduction mythos. The fact that it even has the Nazi reference in there, because that's something that gets thrown around a lot. You know what I mean? And a
right.
lot of the conspiracies or a lot of the theories.
Well, it just goes to show that, when this was happening, they were trying to make a human connection to what could be
Yeah.
happening with them. And, which is makes a hell of a lot of sense. Your brain is going to try to connect the dots and make it make sense. And at the time, especially in the 1960s, where aliens weren't like they are now, it wasn't people weren't accepting like we are. And even now, it's like less than, I think we're still only at like 60% of the world's population accepts that there might even be life on other planets, let alone fucking aliens visiting us, So at the time, it shows that he was trying to connect it to something that he could have possibly maybe known that was possible within our realm of understanding of how the world works around us.
Right.
So he thought it was Nazis. And I don't think it was Nazis, though. I don't I'm pretty sure, he decided that within the first couple of seconds. Well, that's not Nazis. I don't know what the fuck it is, but it ain't Nazis. And,
Right.
you know, y- and then I think that, what happened after, kind of tells that it was something else. But no, that's a good point. I had not realized that he had said that. But I believe it. That makes a lot of sense. Um,
Did you hear my dogs barking in the background?
yeah, I do.
Fucking
They're
assholes.
barking at the Nazis.
You know what? At least I don't have to worry about. They make a
Nazis.
great home defense system, as far as like
Well, that's
when you're real,
true.
when I'm home alone and I'm real high and I'm worried that fucking aliens are gonna come in through the back door or something.
You
I
don't.
got dogs that bark at everything.
Would they attack anything if anything came through the door?
Oh,
Do you think?
they kill squirrels all the time. These
Oh,
things have not. Yeah, these are uh, very much predators. I mean,
no,
they're nice. Like, they don't fuck with people too much. They're nice. They're like friendly, nice dogs. But yeah, they kill squirrels and bunnies, and Anyway,
no. Like I don't know. Any dog we've ever had, like it barks a lot, but like if somebody walks through the door, no, is your best friend.
no, not my dogs. Not
We had
mine.
bad guard dogs growing up, all of them. But anyway, back to the Nazi aliens.
Did you have? And I brought this up when we were first talking about this story
Last week or
originally.
whatever.
Did you check out the UFO incident, the made-for-TV movie that was on NBC?
You know what? I did not, and I really wanted to, and I'm still going to
Okay,
because that looks fucking sweet.
Can I talk about that for a hot minute? Because
Please.
there's a lot of really interesting things about that made for TV movie.
Okay.
So as I said before, it premiered in 1975 on NBC, October 20th, 1975, and it starred James Earl Jones as Barney Hill. Betty Hill was played by Estelle Parsons, who's, if you ever watched the sitcom
Yeah.
Roseanne, she's
Yeah.
like Roseanne's mother.
Yeah.
So one super interesting thing about this made-for-TV movie was that a lot of people watched it. The book had been out already um, when this movie came out. So like the Betty and Barney Hill case, it wasn't exactly. I mean, it wasn't at the forefront of everyone's
Sure.
minds, but it wasn't like it had been established a little bit. But yeah, so the movie appeared on October 20th, 1975. 2 weeks later, November 5th, 1975, is when Travis Walton went missing.
Oh.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah.
Wow. That
10,
makes a lot of
15
sense.
days later, he
Oh,
disappeared for a week or whatever it was. Um, but so I don't know if there's a
that
connection there.
fucking guy, let me tell
But
you.
a lot of other podcasters would assert that there was. Um, but what I thought was super interesting about watching the movie is that it's very well done. I mean, the special effects are kind of cheesy. They're pretty terrible alien effects, but James Earl Jones, like his acting is really good, and his like terror when he, especially during the flashback scenes. It's the movie is basically like two-thirds just them recounting and under hypnotherapy and recounting what happened, and they're using the exact uh they're using the tapes of their regression therapy sessions, and the actors are acting out the regression therapy, and then they're also filming like a reenactment or something, right?
That's cool.
Yeah, so it's done very well, and his acting like fucking makes it absolutely terrifying. Now when they cut to like the reenactment and you see like the shitty alien effects, like then it's kind of like very much like 1975. But
Sure.
as far as like the drama part goes, it does it very well. What's interesting though is I can't imagine it's like very much a horror movie, right?
Well, yeah, sure.
Yeah, like it's very much like it's not a drama. It's not like this medical metaphysical new age like oh like these are our alien brothers and who knows what they have in store for us. Like it's very it's shot, it's edited, it's scored, it's staged to be very terrifying. And I just thought it was interesting that like this was one of the first like real life, I guess you would say. Well, you said this is like one of the first reported alien abduction, widely reported alien abduction
Right.
cases, and it's just framed so negatively. And I'm not saying incorrectly, but I can't imagine watching this in 1975, and you're either going to come away from it laughing at the whole thing and thinking this was the biggest little bullshit you ever spent 92 minutes watching, right? Or being absolutely terrified that this could happen to me at any given moment with no warning and nothing I can do to stop it.
Well, we kind of talked about this when I mentioned, possibly meeting, the colds. Um, you know, when these aliens came down to Betty and Barney Hill, they weren't like, "Hey, you want to like take a ride on our spaceship?" Like they didn't ask. They're
Right?
like,
There's no consent.
you're going to come with us.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you gonna do? Say no? You know? Well, no, you're not. You're just gonna do what you're told because at that point in time, you are scared because you're dealing with things that you have no real knowledge of, and what choice do you got? What choice do you have? So
Right.
yeah, you might as well do it. And then you get on the ship, and you don't know. And I don't think that the ship went anywhere, as far as we know. I mean, I don't. Maybe it did. I don't think they know if the ship went anywhere. Maybe it just stayed right there while they did their experiments and let them out. I don't know.
Right.
But you don't know. You get on the ship, you don't know. They're gonna take you away. You're never gonna come back again. Who knows? Who knows? They took Travis Walton away allegedly. Probably not though, because he's a liar. But um, you know, you don't know what's gonna happen. So yeah, it is. I mean, it is scary. I think it would be different if like they came down as because then you have other things like Entered Cold where he comes down and he just wants to be buds and that was never really received badly. And maybe that's why that story never really took off was because it's not scary.
Right.
It's because Woodrow Damberger was a willing participant the whole time. They were friends, and you know, but horror sells. These scary stories, man, they sell. People love that shit. They like to be scared, and so that's why it gets so popular. But that one wasn't, and this one is. I mean, you're right. It has been framed that way, but from a human perspective, I mean, it would be pretty scary, don't you think?
Sure. Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
Barney's reaction is about wanting to run, about wanting to hide, about wanting to fight. He had a gun in the trunk, and he knew that they were. He felt the. He knew he was outmatched.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And that's
yeah,
what really comes through when you listen to that. When you listen to that recording, and that is something that I have a hard time not believing. Is the authenticity of his panic at
yeah,
seeing this craft, and yeah, this what happens inside gets a little goofy, and the shit about the star map and all that stuff, and we'll get to that in a second. But like, I think you listen to his description of how he felt and the way he reacted, and that feels genuine to me. um
yeah,
and it's what any of us would do. Like, you realize, I mean, I guess maybe there were some people that would see that thing up in the sky and be filled with wonder and awe, and want to explore it, or and then he's just like, oh, we're fucked. This thing
yeah,
is bigger than us. It made our car stop. There's things inside of it, and they're watching us. We're
yeah,
fucked. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
And that's a
Yeah,
that's a pretty good appraisal of the situation. And he ended up being right. You know what I mean? Like, it could have been a lot more. They were experimented on, and there was a fair amount of brainwashing going on. But you can sense his terror up until that point, and that's very real. And it was a negative experience.
well,
Um,
especially for him because he didn't really, he didn't talk to them like Betty did. Betty got the chance to talk with one of these guys a little bit, and kind of figure out that they weren't really there to harm them. And Barney didn't really get that luxury. He just got a tube up his butthole, and that was that was that. And so definitely two different experiences, which makes a lot of sense why Barney would revert to extreme trauma and not remember any of it. Whereas, like,
right.
Betty was still able to recover some of those memories because her brain didn't really want to forget. She had a different perspective, she pretty much had a different experience in the same situation, So,
Did you ever see
which
that?
makes sense.
Did you ever see that SNL skit with Ryan Gosling about alien abduction?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, they did two of them. They're worth checking out on YouTube. But basically, Ryan Gosling, Cecily Strong, and Kate McKinnon are three UFO abductees, and they're being interviewed by someone in the like CIA or the Pentagon or whatever.
Sure.
And they're like, so explain to us what happened on the craft. And Ryan Gosling talks about this like really transcendent experience, and Cecily Strong kind of does the same thing. And then they get to Kate McKinnon, who's smoking a cigarette, and she's like, "No, they shoved the tube up my ass." You know what I mean? And that's the joke, is that the two of them, and he's like, "Well, I must have been you must have got a different set of aliens, because mine were fucking all hands and blah blah blah, and they made me piss into this bowl, and then they spilt the bowl, and they were fighting over
Okay.
whether or not I could read the book." Anyway, so yeah, it's a good SNL skit that kind of follows that. Where
That's that
two
same
two
kind of
people in the
yeah,
same
yeah.
UFO with the same aliens having completely different experiences.
Right.
Um, but I think he could have been so overridden by fear and anxiety that everything was just kind of perceived as negative, and he probably wasn't trying to communicate very much with them. Not that I would blame him.
Yeah. Well, right. It's just again two different people with different upbringings and set of wiring in the brain handling the
Right?
situation differently.
Yeah, take it.
And
Two people could take the same acid and go to completely different places. You know what I
exactly,
mean?
exactly.
So
And so, but let's talk about that star map for a minute. I don't know. I don't know what I think about it. It had later come out that somebody claims that the star map that she drew is actually a map of what is it, Zeta Reticuli.
yeah, so it's something that she remembered under she was shown a star map during her encounter, and then during regression therapy she was able to draw it, or
Draw
she
it.
thought
Yeah.
she was drawing it. And then some people, some amateur astronomers, I think it was like a high school teacher or something, like basically went through all the known star maps of the universe and tried to find something that it corresponded with, and the best they could match it up with was Zeta Reticuli. Um, and other people have said that that's just kind of like wishful thinking to think that it matches up.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've come out and they've said that, like, yeah, it matches, but that's just because, just because it just was coincidental that it did. And it's like,
Right.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
so who knows? If that's, I mean, that depends on, the only real rebuttal that they have against the Betty and Barney Hill case is the fact that, um, a couple of things. I mean, they said again that the star map that was just coincidental that she ended up drawing Zeta Reticuli. She didn't know. We didn't know. I believe we didn't know at the time what it was, and so that was just purely coincidence. And then on top of that, they think that they had gone on vacation because they were having a particularly stressful life at that time, and so I thought maybe the stress and the sleep deprivation had gotten to them, and that they just thought that they saw a UFO and made it into something it wasn't. Basically they had hallucinated the whole thing. Another rebuttal was that Betty, she went on to become, I mean, they both really did end up becoming these big UFO people, and Betty, claims that she'd seen UFOs later in life. And they had put her through a couple of tests to see if, how well she was at identifying things, and they come to find out she wasn't very good at it. But
Well, Barney died a couple years later.
yeah,
Um,
he wasn't around for very very
no,
long.
he died in 1969 of a cerebral hemorrhage,
Right.
which is kind of one of those like, okay, did
Yeah.
they did he have a cerebral hemorrhage because of the abduction experience and as some kind of because of something that had to do with that, or did he fabricate his part of the abduction experience because of the cerebral hemorrhage? You know what I mean? Like, is it
Right.
connected at all? Does it make the scales tip this way? Does it make the scales tip that way? Does it not have anything to do with anything? People don't
Right.
know, but it's one of those
Right.
things where it's like the story gets complicated even further by having this be an aspect of it.
Right. Well, exactly. And well, a lot of people said that like his hypnosis, his regression therapy was purely based off the fact that he was basing it off of Betty's dreams. So that's why they were
Right.
so close.
And 2 weeks before the Betty and Barney Hill case happened, there was an episode of The Outer Limits that dealt with alien abduction
Right.
that they had watched, and was there any connection to that? And could she have had a dream based on that? The same way Travis
Well,
Walton.
they said they never watched it. They didn't know what they were talking about.
Oh, well,
So they said they never watched. It's just that the Outer Limits had aired, and it was a possibility that they could have seen it, and that's what they based it off of. Especially because they said that the aliens look so similar. That would have been it. But they both said that no, we don't watch that shit. They
yeah.
don't know what you're talking about, and it makes sense. Now, one of my biggest things, and I said it, when we kind of talked about the anniversary of it, was that Betty and Barney Hill. The thing about them is that they're an interracial couple in the 60s, like, and that was very much not okay. So why would they go people like that? They're not purposefully drawing attention to themselves. Like what would be why would they go and do that and put themselves on the public eye like that if something really hadn't happened?
Well, I mean, if you really want to be a prick, you could say they already drew a bunch of attention to themselves by being in an interracial relationship in the first place.
Well, I
Now
guess.
granted, like, hey, you love who you love. The heart wants what the heart wants. I get it.
Well, that's
Um,
2021. Yeah, that shit shouldn't exist. I mean, I'm saying people
right.
shouldn't care
But
about
I'm
that anymore, but
no,
in the
I don't
60s they
think
did.
yeah, exactly in the '60s they did, and was I don't know. I don't. That's another interesting aspect of it, and you have to wonder: does it play any kind of part at all? Does it play a part in his feelings of his instinctual feelings of persecution? Could that have been the reason that he was so on edge and feared interference or um,
Sure.
hostility from outside forces? Is because maybe that's something that he felt every time they walked into a grocery store together. I don't know. You
Sure.
know, I dated a black girl for a while, and I remember the first time we went out for drinks. We were gonna go see a movie first, and like we were over by my house, and I was like, "Oh, we'll just stop here," and like never thought in a million fucking years that like we would get looked at or anything walking into a place together, and we did. And I mean, we weren't thrown out. You know, it's not like we were fucking run out of the place or anything. But I became very aware very quickly that you know um, people were paying attention to us because we were an interracial couple, and I can only imagine what it was like being in the '60s, being married, and you're dealing with that
Right.
everywhere you go.
Everywhere.
Every
Well, they were
time you
still killing black people then.
Yeah, I mean, this is 61. This is
Right.
early 60s. This is early. Now,
Right.
granted, they're on the East Coast. They're probably in the most liberal part of the United States to pull us to do something like this. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's got to affect you psychologically. And he was also an ex-military guy. You know, once again, does that have any bearance on the story? I don't know. You know, but I mean, it's part of his past. He had a military background,
Right.
and so that was something that he was used to. He was raised in a combative mindset, or I don't know what. You know, maybe it has nothing to do with it. Maybe it has everything to do with it. You know, um, and still worked for the government. He was a post office
Yeah.
employee at the time.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. So I
and
mean, it's just another thing to kind of add to it. The mystery of it all, I suppose. Whether or not this was something, whether or not they just overreacted to a very normal situation. I don't think you can fucking dream up an entire alien abduction because of stress, but
yeah, I don't buy that either.
like that seems like I mean that's a reach. I think they hurt themselves reaching for that one.
Yeah,
But it is definitely, I mean, either way, whether this happened or whether it didn't, which I'm in the camp that it did. um it's definitely set a precedence for alien abductions, right?
right,
It's got its place, just like how I don't really like The Exorcist, but The Exorcist has its place in horror movies, as much as in The Shining too. I don't like The Shining either, and it has its place.
I hate the
But
Beatles.
Pat hates the Beatles, and but they have their place.
Right,
I mean, that's kind of the same thing with the Betty and Barney Hill. I don't hear too many people try to debunk it. To be honest with you, again, we kind of named off pretty much everything that they had, every bit of ammunition, and
right,
it still doesn't make a lot of sense. Could it be those things? Sure, it could be those things, but the only thing we can go off of is what they said, and like they said, they never watched The Outer Limits. Like,
right.
so that's what they said. The star map does look like Zeta Reticuli.
Well, I'll argue that more than anything else because I think that might be. I mean, Carl Sagan even said he thought it was BS, and I defer to Carl Sagan on this one. But it's one of those things where you can draw a couple lines and a couple dots, and you can try to make it be whatever you want to make it be. And if you're willing to take enough of a leap with it, then you can kind of mold it into whatever kind of thing you
Sure.
want it to fit to. So I'm not sold on the star map. That was always kind of my thing too. Is that so? Okay, if the star map's legit, that means these guys came from outer space. It means they flew here on their spaceship from another
Well,
planet. You know
right.
what I mean? And like, all right, so that's what aliens are, huh? Like I
Well, let me ask you
thought
something.
we didn't think that anymore. I thought we were in
Have
the
you
string theory
ever
now.
you ever looked at a map before?
In passing,
Just in general, you ever looked at a map ever?
yes, I used to have to meet people off the internet and use MapQuest back in the day
So,
before
okay,
everyone had fucking GPS.
okay. Could you draw that map?
No,
He disappears on
I
me. I don't
understand
know what
what you're saying.
happened.
No, I'm not. Hey,
Okay.
I'm not shitting on our cartography skills here. This isn't me like this isn't about that. I
No,
think
no, no. I'm just making a point. No, I'm just making a point because my ass wouldn't be able to, especially if I met fucking aliens. The last thing I'm thinking about is, oh, I better memorize this map real quick. Like, you're not thinking clearly
well,
when you're faced with something like that.
true and granted, but I'm not. My problem isn't with the quality of the map. I
It's the
think
people comparing it to Zeta Reticuli.
Well, that I don't. My whole point was that I don't think that that was. I don't think that it's. we should say that they came from Zeta Reticuli. The map thing I just kind of put off to the side as, just like inconclusive evidence. But I think the story that they came from another planet and that they flew across here in a ship that could have taken fucking thousands of light years or whatever. Like that to me is the more damaging evidence, is that they presented themselves as having flown here from another planet. When our science now tells us that that's highly unlikely. That if these things are
Well, I
traveling
don't think
around,
they ever claimed that they flew here from another planet. I just think they pulled the map out and showed her where they were from.
okay, so then saying that they teleported made some kind of use of that.
I just don't think they ever really said exactly how they got here.
Yeah,
And
I wasn't there.
no, well, that was you weren't there, huh? You don't know.
I
you didn't.
wasn't in the
You
room when it happened.
Someone else had mentioned, and I mentioned that last week too, that they had mentioned that their biggest issue with it is that how they described the examination and stuff was very much examination tactics for the time, but that's a hard one to argue because I get what they're saying. Why wasn't there more high tech, you know, exams going on? Well, we don't really know if there was or wasn't. If we don't understand their science, then we're not going to be able to nail it to a T and be like, oh, they gave me an MRI. If you don't know what the fucking MRI is in 1961,
Right.
I mean, then you're not really going to know what exactly is going on. And, again, looking in the case of like with, Barney, he was scared to death. He probably, right then and there, his brain probably shut down pretty good.
Well, yeah, and I think once you acknowledge that there could be a fair amount of screen memories or hypnosis or thought control going on, it basically throws everything that you, even through regression therapy, it throws everything into question.
That's true.
So, like, you know, maybe the fact that these are aliens in a spaceship is the screen memory. Maybe there are no more aliens in the spaceship than there are Nazis in a Bellcraft, or they are dudes in black suits and black cars.
Yeah.
Maybe all of those are different masks, and you got to peel back like a million different layers before you get to what the fucking thing really is, and it's not a little gray man in a black suit from Zeta
Right.
Reticuli. That's just as preposterous as, you know, smiling fucking strangers or black-eyed children or
Right.
Mothmen. You know what I mean? All of that is just screen memories or superimposed uh, imaginative shit.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? No, you're absolutely right.
Of course
Um,
I
so are we going to tell the audience now that we're aliens, or you want to wait until like episode 100 or something?
am. That we are?
Yeah.
I'm
Should
not.
they should be allowed to know?
I am firmly from Chicago. You can hear it in my
Well,
fucking accent.
that might be alien to some. I don't know.
We're Midwesterners,
We're, we're from the Midwest. That's what it is.
right? Although
But no, you're absolutely right about what you're saying is that there's so much to unpack here that we might not get to the bottom of the bag ever, and
if you start peeling shit away, man, how do you know when to stop? Do you stop when it looks right to you, or do you stop when you don't feel there's anything left to peel away? Because I feel like you keep peeling away. I don't buy the outer space thing. I think that's a bunch of bullshit. You know what I
but
mean?
what do you mean? Like you
Like
don't think outer space is real?
no, man. I think we're on a turtle's back. No,
Oh my god.
no. I looked at Zeta Reticuli that they were showed star maps and that.
Okay, okay,
I
that
think
yeah.
I don't know. I think the science gets really weird. If you try to put these stories into scientific context, things get harder and harder to explain when you try to account for space travel.
Right.
I think if you really
Yes,
want to be a physicist about this, and
you're
you want
right.
to really start talking about the honest to god fucking science, when you start talking about space travel, things get very fucking hard to believe.
Because you can't have space travel without time travel. You can't.
So then you start talking about, okay, these things are not traveling through space.
Interdimensional, right? They
Yes,
have to
okay.
travel.
So now you're talking about completely
Okay.
different things. And whenever people start pulling out fucking star maps and saying, oh, we flew here from another planet, either they're lying, you're lying, or it's just another fucking screen memory bullshit. This is the story that we're telling the humans so they don't lose their shit and they let us, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's
But
what
you're
I'm
right. I
saying.
guess I never thought about that. The aliens could be fucking lying to us. Why wouldn't they? Why would they tell us the truth? We're just human.
Well,
Fucking
that's what's
their
crazy
planet.
is that we impart this kind of morality on them that like doesn't necessarily need to be there, and that's what I think is so interesting about Betty's like casual aside of like then they got into an argument on the way, on our way out of the ship about whether or not they should take the book, is because you don't see that. I don't see that. Now, granted, I've not read every single abduction experience committed to paper, but usually there's a uniform goal, or there's kind of like a sense of order of control that's going on here. And this momentary lapse of fucking autonomy where the two aliens argue about a book is so deviates, I feel, from the abduction narrative norm, right?
You think he's fucking so they get off the ship, right? Betty and Barney will get off the ship, and everybody else on the ship just looks at the one guy, and this fucking guy. Oh, it's
Trying to
fucking
give him the
Betty.
book? What are you doing? There's no
Fine.
fucking. Would you run out of snow globes?
They fucking went home and gave his ass a fucking swirly.
Right. Did they yell at him? Did they report him?
This asshole, you know. Of
So,
course, it was him.
but it's such a weird detail, and it makes you, like I said, to me that either makes the whole thing completely true or makes it completely. It's the
Well, it's like
it's like,
the veggie man phenomena that we've talked
right.
about. It's so fucking insane that like I mean, what other possibility is there? That like
But
it's probably happened. So I don't know. It's what do you guys think? Do you guys think Betty and Barney Hill were abducted by aliens? I mean, here's the thing about it: they're both dead, both of them. We'll never know unless the aliens that abducted them came down with a videotape of it and like, yeah, we're the ones, we did it. We'll never fucking know if it happened or not. But
right,
in a world of you know, unknowns, I'd like to believe that they were. So
sure. I
I
believe
don't
it.
know.
Something happened.
Something happened, whatever. Whether it was, like you said, accurate or not, depending on what they were allowed to know, I don't know. But something definitely happened to these people, period. Whatever it
Right.
was. Whether they just believe it did so badly that they made it their reality or that it actually did happen, something happened. And
It it changed the paranormal landscape forever.
yeah, forever. And so
Forever.
there's that. But anyway, I don't have anything else to add. Do you got anything else to add?
No, I'll quit while I'm ahead.
Okay. All right, then, guys. Well, there you go. There's Betty and Barney Hill. So happy birthday or whatever, the anniversary, whatever it was last week. Or okay, I'm done now. We'll see you guys back here next Wednesday.